you know what? It's all about the feelings, okay? And what are those eyes expressing, right? And then the question becomes then how do we express those feelings and how do we get those eyes to look like we want them to look without having to literally draw everything. And so I've noticed here with this is a huge part of that. Um, it's taking the eye shape, which if you look at the eye shape is all of the white space in the eye. Okay. Forget that this part is even here. If you could imagine there's no pupil in the eye and there's just white space. Well, what this line is a corner to corner line of the eye, and it's telling us which how much of that white space is at the above or below the line. So again, just think of it as whatever shape it is. Let's say it's round in this particular instance here. Okay. As you can see here, more of the white space would be above the line than below the line. Okay. So this eye, we can go ahead and now put our little space here in our little eyeball space, right? All right. And then above here, you'll see they have all the little crevices of the eye, right? Okay. And this eye, feeling wise, again, as we talked about last week, would be something where the person was surprised. Okay. So down here, if I took my marker and I'm caricaturing this eye, okay, what would I do here? Well, I would draw the eye like this, right? And I'm thinking, okay, I'm thinking like this, right? And then I'm thinking, okay, this is about where the eyeball would be in that shape. You see what I mean? So you're taking a basic idea and then you're expressing it as in the way that you would a cartoon, right? All right. So you might want to practice that a couple of times right there. I'm not going to stick around on it because again, you can watch the video from last week and it'll show you all of that. Okay. Hey, Josh. Good morning. How are you today? I didn't see you were here. All right. Now the next eye that we also went over last week, which I find this one to be very usable in a lot of situations, is where we have the center line, okay? And if you look at the white space of the eye here, the white space here is more of a half of, think about it as a half of a circle, okay? So that half circle, right, has obviously all of the white space is below the line here. And you might have a little bit because eyes don't actually go flat right here, but you don't have to draw that. You can just go flat with it. It doesn't matter. But most of the space is going to be here below the eye. Okay. So here, the dead space in the eye, or where there is no feature, is pretty much this little fold above the eye right here we have. But let's go ahead and put the eye in there. So the cool thing about this shape is that not only does half of the eye shape show, but also half of the eyeball shape or the pupil shape is showing. So it would have a half of a circle here, okay? And then a half of a circle here, right? So you can see that this person in this situation would look pretty, they would either look sleepy, or drowsy, right? But they can also look very, if you think about these eyes, a lot of people say, oh, she has sexy eyes, or they have sexy eyes. Well, this is the shape that you would use for a lot of female caricatures, Well, you say the eye is sexy, for instance, if you want to think about Marilyn Monroe, right? I always use her as the example. So if I am caricaturing this eye, again down here with my marker, when I'm drawing it, I'm saying, okay, I always start with this line in mind, this line here. So when I the first line that I'll draw is that line, and a lot of times I just make it straight, but I'll just do like this. Okay, that is literally that line, but I curved it a little bit. Remember, because I said that the eye kind of curves at the top, so I just curved the line a little bit instead of drawing it straight. And then here, what I'll do is I'll put half of my eyeball and then half of the pupil shape, and then draw the rest of the eye underneath it. Then I'll come across the top, and then I'll just put the fold over the eye, and look, then I can do something like this, right? Now watch, if I want to put eyelashes, I come back to the center line, that line here, and then I'll say, okay, and then I'll do something like this here. Okay. So you can see here, we have an eye that's a little bit more. You throw some eyelashes on there. Right? So you can see how that works really real easy right there. Okay, so that is the translation. This is the scientific version. This is what I'm thinking, and then this is what I'm drawing. So a lot of these sketch lines, how I'm able to draw a lot of times with such confidence and without using pencils first, is because I incorporate my sketch lines with my marker. So that major line in the middle is where what we need to always realize is there. Now, obviously here I couldn't do that. So what I did was I started with this line in mind. This is the top of my eye. That's the bottom of my eye. But I'm thinking about where the eyeball goes in relation. In other words, this is all, let's go back here to the cactuses. Okay. Remember the cactus. This is the desert. These are the cactuses, and every place where there's not a cactus is dead space. So this is kind of like the cactus in a white dead space. So that's how you know how you can point your eye, what direction you want it to go in. Okay. All right. So let me see here. Let's go with the last eye. So that's going to be another line here. I don't know if you guys can see that on. Let me make sure you can. Oh yeah, you guys got a good angle there. Okay. So let's go with this is going to be an equal shape. Okay, meaning this is going to be an average eye. There's nothing really. They don't have more space at the top and the bottom. You might think of it as equal. That means that there's just as much space on the top as there is on the bottom. So if you're thinking about, if your eye, for instance, was a circle, right? Your circle would be equally spaced in half. And so now what happens here with this particular shape is you can see that the eyeball comes a little bit past the center line and back up to the top. So that's very important for you to look at when you're doing this. So look at that the eyeball, or I can't remember, it's the eyeball, I'm trying to think of the scientific name for this. Wait, let me see here. I want to make sure. I think it's the iris, the pupil, and I'm having brain freeze today. Let me look that up real quick so I can give y'all the correct terminology. Here, let me see. What a good morning today. I feel good today. Today's a good day. All right, let me see here. Let me go eye parts. So let's just call it, let's go to eye parts so we can label it. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's label it. So this is the eyeball, right? So, and this is the little piece in the middle, okay? So this part on the outside is the iris. And then this is the pupil. Okay, there we go. The iris, the pupil, and then the white space is called the sclera. So we just had a science lesson today. Okay? So the sclera is literally the white space in the eye, right? Hold on, let me also live. Okay. All right. So the white space is the desert, the out here, okay? And then the pupils are kind of the shapes here. And then you got your iris, which is like I don't know what that would be. Refer to the okay. I see what it's saying. I'm tripping. The sclera is not that part. I messed up. The sclera is this part out here. So it still is technically dead space. All right. So this way, when I'm talking about this, then you'll understand what I mean. So with going back to our example, when we go with the equal, we can see here that the iris extends past the center line in this scenario, and that the actual pupil itself stays above the center line, with the lighting being here, so that when we color it in, this is kind of what it looks like, right? And then you have your fold over the top of the eye. I don't know what that would be called in the eye world, but I just call it the eye fold. Let me see. What is it? What do they call it? They don't have a name. Do they have a name for that? I know in here he had like a thing with all the names of the parts of the eye in here or something, but I'm not going to go through all that. This is not science class. All right. So anyway, and then you can put your darker line usually up here on the top. Okay. All right. So now let's translate that into a caricature. So when I draw your picture, all right, what am I doing here? Well, I might start with the top of the line here. I might start with the bottom of the line here, right? And I know that this part is going to extend just a little bit past the middle of the eye. And then this is going to be above the center line here, right? And then you have your line above the top, and then you have your eye shape like that. So this gives you a pretty normal looking eye, right? It's pretty cool. All right. So we have gone through that. Now here, when you draw any of these shapes, as always, there are different things you can change about it. So you can go with, again, the center line of the face here. Let's get another sheet of paper out. So we'll just put this away we'll come back and review that. Let's just put this as page 1 of what we did today. All right. And we'll just put this on top of my keyboard. All right. Now we can do, when we're drawing these eyes, it's all about also placement. So you can use this little T shape here, which you'll see most of the time when artists draw a face, they'll use this little T shape. So you have 3 different angles eyes can be drawn at. And you just want to look and see which one fits for you. All right. So you can draw your shape. Straight across. You can draw it at an angle like this. Okay. And then you can also draw it at a down angle like this. Okay. So this might be your practice. All right. So here we'll start with, let's just say somebody that has an equal shape on top and bottom. So we have the equal shape, right? And remember now what's happening. Our eye is going a little bit below that shape there. And then this pupil shape is going to be a little above it. Not necessarily touching the top of the eye, but just somewhere around here. And we can color that space in. Okay. And then we will draw our line over the top and just kind of keep it simple. Okay. So that would be the eye number 1 you'll just try out. Okay, now this one is going to be something that's drawn at a slant. Now, what I have noticed here is that when you look at this as white space on these particular eyes, this is something worthy of note mention, is that it always tends to have all the white space above the eye, above the line. You see, because this line right here is the same line right here. But when the eyes, anyone has a slanted look in their eye, I have noticed that all of the white space is above, so we can just put all dead space in the eye, all dead space, or let's just say white space is above the line. So meaning that you're most of the time when you're drawing your eyes at angles, you're going to use shapes that look like semicircles, right? But going at an angle. Okay. Now, what I also noticed about these eyes here, okay, is that they use a semicircle inside of the eye. When we draw them, it's usually a semicircle. Okay. And then inside of that semicircle, the semicircle attaches to the top of the eye. So that's something that I noticed. And then you'll put your top over the eye here. So now you've drawn your eye at an angle. Okay. So these are scenarios you want to look for when you are live drawing caricatures. And this would allow you to quickly draw the person without staring at their face too much, because you're just saying, okay, they have one of 3 scenarios or whatever going on with their eye. And then now you're determining, okay, is their eye at an angle? Well, if their eye is at an angle, that eliminates you having to consider other options. You get what I'm saying? So this would be mostly, again, above the eye. Now, here we have another shape here. This is a downward. Now, what I'm noticing here with the downward shape as well is that they have most of the, I would think that, you know what, I would think that this shape is it's a little bit more bird shaped. Like if you think of a bird that kind of looks like this, let me show you a little bird right here. I think I did this illustration a long time ago, but if you look at this, this looks like a little bird, right? Because if I put a little eye here and some little feet on him, right? And some little tail feathers, it looks like a bird, doesn't it? So if we take this bird and we draw that bird here, right? Okay. It's a little fat bird, right? And we draw some little tail feathers on it. And then we draw the eye, like right here. So this is also, now this is a little bit more than a semicircle. This is more like a, it's still, I guess, but it's just a circle with the top of it cut off. So if I think about it like the eye is kind of shaped like with this cut off. You know what I mean? So what I'll do is I'll just put that right here. And I notice that it stays above the center line too. Now, the pupil in this situation is also a full pupil, or a full, excuse me, what's the name of that? It's a full, yeah, it's a full pupil, okay? And then a full pupil, and then a full light source inside of the pupil, okay? And then we'll color in the pupil shape here. Okay, and then this eye shape here has heavy eyelids. I did notice that, so we'll draw some heavy eyelids, and we can, I guess, what shape can we be thinking about? Maybe like the letter V, but like an offset V, right? Or a cone, maybe. This shape right here might look like a cone shape here. This shape right here, right? So that's a heavy eyelid. So again, we have a full pupil for this shape and full light source. So that looks cool. I like that. All right. And let's see here. Now, let's go over here. We're going to do a picture